ないです。
東京リベンジャーズポップアップショップ開催。全国5カ所の G ストアが巡回。お揃いの MA は先行予約受付。
仕事的に5時に終わった。 teman. Wow.
ってへん言うてんのにかかって見たおもろいやん。
Ja, aber irgendwie ist auch Österreich. Ja, halt mehr, also Hochhäuser, ne? Das ist echt schön, ich hatte gefahren. Berge, See. Japan wirklich alles.
We need a map. Go get a map.
Se vogliamo qualcos'altro
Andiamo giù. Qua c'è la carne, non sbaglio. Qua c'è la...
Oh my god.
Ah, that's good tempo.
赤羽とかでありそうな席もある。
語彙力。語彙力。 までも光がありすぎるとそれはそれでもなんかトンネルみたいなのちょっと日本人でこれはすごい綺麗だよ。かわいい。
也是有泥呀、就是那个马铃薯。系列感觉这样。啥
Gleich Schweizer, was
Well, you guys are very hard to entertain right now.
1点だけあるからそこ以外
Thank you for watching my really crappy GoPro footage from Japan. I just thought that after all this and looking back at the footage, I thought I'd go speak about my biggest social experiences that I had in Japan, or I guess biggest experiences in Japan in general that kind of changed the view of how I perceived the country and my whole trip in general. So if you don't want to hear me talk for 30-40 minutes, feel free to click off now. I don't want to waste your time, and that's it. So just for some background information about myself before we continue, before my trip, I'm currently 21 years old, almost 22 in June, and I decided to go to Japan solo. I did some research prior, but I didn't do a lot. But so there's obviously a lot of problems that you come across as a solo traveler. First being, the language barrier. Not that it would change even if I had someone with me, because I don't know anyone that personally knows Japanese. And second thing would be just navigation. I would say I'm not the best at directions, I'm not gonna lie. And I guess a bunch of other things too. But with being a solo traveler, I was able to experience a lot. I won't be held back by my other friends or family during the trip, but I also won't hold them back either. So I was able to do my own thing. And for some other background information, I spent a total of 12 hours each day. So I was there for 12 full days walking. And yeah, so what I speak about here is probably not going to do my trip much justice because I experienced a lot. But if I wanted to talk about everything, it'd probably take over 2 hours to talk about it. So, we'll just cut to the chase, right? So, once again, nothing much. I'm a solo traveler, 21 years old, and I went to Japan solo. So let's start it off. So because I'm a solo traveler, I had a lot of anxiety in terms of not only prepping to go to Japan, but like just getting there, airplane, hopefully everything goes all right. And I have GAD, generalized anxiety disorder, so like I end up worrying about every little aspect of everything in my life, I guess. I got gray hairs to show for it too, but yeah, that the pre-Japan planning was very rough on me. I'm not gonna lie. So I didn't actually research much prior because I was so worrying about everything else. But my nerves kind of dumbed down as I got to Japan. It took a total of 16 hours to get there, and I landed at Haneda Airport Terminal 2 at around I think 4 p.m. But as soon as I got through customs, it was about 5-6 p.m. at this time. And it took me a while because customs took a while because everyone's coming in too. And also because I thought I lost my luggage. We don't talk about that, yeah? But as soon as I got all those things handled, I went out and I had to go to my hotel, which thankfully was a station away in Tenkubashi Station from Haneda Airport. I did that because I wasn't sure how to navigate Japan at the time, of course. So I want to be as close to the airport as possible so I can research a bit. And luckily for me, it was an easy ride over there. It's a 2-minute walk. My hotel was a 2-minute walk from the station, so I got in, checked in. They made the check-in so easy. And the first thing I noticed as soon as I walked into my room was how compact everything was. Yeah, it was very small, but that's not a bad thing because once again, I'm a solo traveler. I wasn't with anyone. So I actually appreciate having a smaller room because the point of a hotel room for me personally, of course, is just to be able to do my necessities, sleep, shower, etc., maybe get some food and eat there. And that's it. I didn't need any big room for that. If anything, I actually appreciate a small room because it made things like reaching my phone an arm's length away, which I had issues with in other hotels back home. So, I appreciate it. Thank you. And I think it was 6 p.m. No, it was very late at this time. So I thought, hey, there's still a lot of time left in the day. There was about 5 hours. I'd say 5 hours. It's a rough estimate. And it was 7 p.m. at this time. So I went out. I decided to just go take some pictures for a bit. I did that for a bit, and then I realized, dang, I didn't eat on that plane ride there, that whole 16-hour trip, because I didn't want to go to the bathroom, which was kind of, funny to hear about, right? You should be eating regardless of if you have to go to the bathroom or not. But the thing is, I didn't want to disturb the people right next to me. They were sleeping, and I was sleeping too. So, I want to respect their sleep time as much as they would respect mine. And once again, I was just hungry at that point. So I decided to actually go down to a konbini. And in this case, it's a Lawson. convenience store. Sorry about that. And I got a combo that would forever be stuck with me throughout my whole trip in Japan. It would be a Pocari Sweat and pork cutlet sandwich. I had that combination many times throughout my trip. Hold up. It's right here. So, because of that combo that I had today, Pocari Sweat is now a very big staple in my life. And I'm glad I can buy it here, because I would be very sad if I couldn't. There's a lot of things I couldn't buy here that I had in Japan, which is a shame. But at least I can have Pocari Sweat here. So I'm not mad, right? And the next thing I noticed, which would stay a trend throughout my whole trip, was how people would perceive me in Japan. And the funny thing is, for some reason, there are plenty of people that I had talked to who thought I was Japanese over there. And in the first case, this first encounter was actually a convenience store clerk that I had to deal with. When I was checking out with the 2 items that I had, they asked if I wanted a bag in Japanese. And when I told them I spoke English and I was confused, they were kind of taken aback. They were kind of flustered because they thought I was Japanese. And you know what? It's fair game, because I felt kind of awkward about it too, because I should have said something in the beginning, to prevent a bit of the awkwardness. So after that, we checked out as normal, thankfully. And I ate the food. Very delicious food, by the way. And that's why I had it so many times throughout my whole trip. And I just went out, continued taking photos. By the way, this was in Ota City, where my hotel was. So it's like a jurisdiction or district near the airport, of course. So not any of the big landmarks that we'll see in Tokyo. But I continued going down, taking pictures. And the next thing I noticed was actually how alive nighttime felt in comparison to here. Over here, people who are out at night are usually doing it for recreational purposes, but over in Japan, it kind of feels like they're doing it as a part of their daily lives, not for recreational purposes. Of course, there's gonna be people out there for recreational purposes, but I felt like it was more natural to be out at night there for just any reason, which is great because I'm personally a nocturnal person. And where's my phone? So I don't know if you can see this, but it's currently 5 a.m. And I'm still currently on that Japanese sleep schedule. I haven't adapted since 2 weeks since I got back. But even before my trip to Japan, I was very nocturnal. So I appreciate being able to go out at night and feel like I'm not alone, which is great. So I appreciate that. And after that, I actually decided, that the convenience store food that I had wasn't enough. So I ended up actually going down to a chicken sandwich restaurant as I was walking past it. And I was kind of scared walking in because, of course, the whole language barrier thing. I know no Japanese whatsoever. And I walked in. And turns out the next trend I will notice is that a lot of these restaurants have menus in the front counter where you pay and all. Just to show the clerk or the cashier what you want to eat. And they would do that throughout my whole trip, and I appreciate it because I should have expected that because, there's a lot of foreigners who come to Japan every year. So, it was very welcoming for me as someone who didn't know anything. So, yeah, thank you for that. And after that, also, the next thing I noticed after that chicken sandwich that I got a chicken sandwich. So, it was $3. The equivalent here would be about $9 for the same thing. Everything was so much cheaper back there, and I love it. I know it's all cost of living and all. Japanese people probably won't have the same luxuries as I would with my inflated currency, but as a traveler there, I appreciate being as cheap as possible throughout that whole trip. So I went back to my hotel, slept, and my next big experience was actually my first day, because this is the day that really changed the course of my whole trip. I don't think that's the right phrase, I would say, but I learned a lot on that day. So I got up at 7 a.m. I got up very early for no reason at all. And I went down to the train station so I could, get a head start on navigation in case I get lost. And turns out I worried about nothing because navigation in Japanese train systems and all was very easy. So from my hotel in Tokyo at this point, I went down to Tenkubashi Station, and from there you take the monorail line straight down to Hamamatsucho. And from there you can take the Yamano line, in which case that line actually encompasses a lot of the biggest landmarks in Japan. Tokyo, which would be Akihabara, Ueno, Shibuya, Harajuku, Shinjuku, etc. There's a lot of places that you can go through from just that line alone. So it made it very easy for me. And I didn't get lost at all. So I actually got to the place I wanted to early. And in this case, it was Akihabara. I wasn't planning to go on Akihabara first, but it so happens to be closest from my train station and, from the monorail. So I went there first, and that's where I spent my first day. And so turns out I got there very early, in fact. And there was nothing that was really open at that point. Even the restaurants weren't even open at that point. So I just decided to take photos for a few hours, street photos of, people going to work, doing their thing, their daily lives, and that's that. I did that for a few hours until the first thing that opened. In this case, it would be Yodobashi Camera, which was a place I want to go to for obvious reasons. I'm a photographer. Obviously, the place is not just cameras, so, don't worry about that too much. But it's a main attraction for me, first of all. I went there, got a camera battery because I left my batteries back here at home. Photographer, by the way, losing his stuff. But the next thing I noticed was tax-free shopping. That thing helped me throughout the whole trip. Even if 10% isn't that much for people like me, I appreciate any savings I can get. And after that, I spent a good hour in that store. So, I got enough out of there. So I decided to eat afterwards because it was like 11 at this point. And I ate at a chicken sandwich shop, or just a chicken shop right next to Yodobashi Camera. I think it's called Haishara Fried Chicken. I don't remember. But it's a very good place. I'm not gonna lie. I also had this French cafe right next to Yodobashi Camera as well. Also good stuff. I love it. And at that point, it was around 12 because, I ate at two places. I decided to go down to the main area of Akiba. The place that you associate Akiba with, that you see in Google Images, like that one. You'll know if I post a photo up here. But I went down there, and there goes my first journey. I decided to go explore because, that's where I wanted to be in the first place. And I actually went down to the first place I went down to was actually the anime department store. It's not what it's called, of course, but it's like a 7 floor department store of just anime themed stuff. The first floor was purely figures, and I went there and I stood there for about 1-2 hours, and I also got some stuff. First thing being Zoro. Yeah, I love this thing. It was also cheap. Cheaper than I could buy it from here. Oh, I'm gonna break something. I'm sorry. I also got ooh. Oh, that's a hold up. Well, I gotta fix that. I got a bunch of things, to say the least. I also got some Naruto figures for my brother because he really likes Naruto, and the biggest regret I had was. One of the biggest regrets I had when going to Japan was not bringing more baggages. I never thought I would have gotten this many figures. I'll probably post something of the end result of my Japan trip. But don't tell my brother that, or anyone else for that matter. But after that, I was done shopping at that place. I decided to just go walk around, take more photos, and then so I had this weird interaction. So Akiba is known for many things. One of those things are being maid cafes. And so I was walking down the street. I lacked this thing called awareness. I think I already said that already. I don't know. But I was, how do I say this? I was just walking down, listening to music. I always have some sort of earbud in. And because of my lack of awareness and how I approach crowds, I would swerve around them so I could get I would cut in front. And I was getting out of the store, and I was trying to avoid this big crowd that I was crossing through. I cut straight across, and then I ran into this maid cafe advertiser. They were advertising their maid cafe, and at that point, I couldn't just walk past because that would be rude. So I decided to act interested and take one of their pamphlets, their flyers, advertising their maid cafe and where it is, and social medias and whatnot. And turns out. I couldn't just do that. So she decided to try and talk to me in Japanese. I couldn't understand at all. But I think at the end she thought I was interested and wanted to guide me to the maid cafe, in which she guided me, and I had to follow her. And at that point, I couldn't. That was the point of no return. I couldn't do anything at that point. So I followed her to the maid cafe. I felt awkward about it. We were talking through Google Translate at that point on the walk there, just to get a general idea of who we are and whatnot. And as soon as we got to the cafe, I was greeted by the other maids, and there were some other customers there. And it felt very awkward, I'm not going to lie. But as soon as I sat down and we started talking, doing our thing, it actually calmed down a lot. So it actually ended up being a lot less awkward than I thought it would be. We ended up talking about many things, because apparently we share many similar interests. Those interests being like anime, photography, because they noticed I had a bunch of camera gear. I had all my gear that day. Also, we talked about my Tokyo itinerary, because I told them that I was there. I just got there the day before. So they were interested in what my itinerary was like. And so I told them, and they gave me guidance as to where I should go in Japan. I thanked them for that. I guess I should really just point this out real quick. I over-exaggerate a lot of things, so I just thought they were just talking to me like that just to be nice. I don't expect any real mutual feelings to occur, so I try to treat it as such. And, I over-exaggerate how people think of me. I have a weird perception of how people perceive me, okay? So let's cut at that. I know they're just doing it for business. That's how they make money. Talking to people like me and, making them order stuff. Yeah, that's a rant aside. But if we just take that aside, like just put it like on the bench, let's just say it was a pretty good social interaction. If we forget the fact it's a maid cafe, it was a pretty eye-opening social interaction. So I learned a lot of things that day, actually. I actually had to deal with two maids, because I think the first one made me transfer to another maid, because I said I had some time. I'm like, I said that because I didn't want to be rude. And we talked about some things, and she actually taught me a few things about like the Japanese language. Mostly the big ones, like drawing someone's attention and being grateful, saying thank you in a formal manner. I learned quite a lot from this one person, so thank you for that. And yeah, that's kind of it. And once again, they did guide me to a bunch of these Tokyo spots, and I eventually went there. So it's because of them I was able to experience these places. So thank you once again if somehow you're watching this and can understand what I say. And that's kind of that. They also asked me if I want to take a picture with them at the end. I told them, don't feel forced to. I'm a way too awkward of a person. You don't have to do it just because it's a business. And they just said, oh, let's do it anyway, kind of like that. And we took these photos. Hold up. I don't know if it'll focus. I'll blur them out for obvious reasons. But in all, that maid cafe experience was very positive experience. It didn't feel like a maid cafe. It was just a social interaction for me. There was nothing quirky or anything special. They were just dressed in costumes, but other than that, it just felt like a actual normal social interaction. So this maid cafe just might be different from the others, because every time I hear about a maid cafe, I always assume there's some sort of quirk going on. So I appreciate that, because any other situation I'd be completely awkward in. And aside from that, yeah, that's that. After I got out of there, everything just went as normal, and then I went back to my hotel, slept. And then the next day, I went to Ikebukuro and Harajuku. There was actually not much that happened that day, actually. But I want to talk about me meeting up with a friend I haven't talked to in 4 years. So I went to a shrine in Harajuku by Takashita Street. I forgot what the shrine's name was called. And I went there just because, it looked very nice. It looked very nice. I have a few pictures here. But I was taking pictures of the shrine, and I just decided, I'm going to post them on Instagram and Facebook stories. And so happens, this one guy that I haven't talked to in almost 4 years contacted me through messages saying that he's also in Harajuku. How convenient, right? And he was doing some business there. So he asked if we wanted to meet up, and guess what? We did. It was kind of out of nowhere too, but I can't blame him, right? And we decided just to talk about our experiences in Japan so far, because we both kind of just got there. And yeah, that's that. We just had to walk around. We went to the park nearby. I forgot. I keep forgetting what the park is nearby. It's a beautiful park, by the way. Cherry blossoms there were amazing. But we just kind of talked about our experiences in Japan and also just caught up in general. We also talked about stuff we noticed so far being in Japan compared to the States or where we live. And, it helped us keep an open mind. That way we can, make sure we're not doing anything wrong as we're here, which is good. And that's that, really. I know I said big experiences, but I think it's pretty substantial because I got to experience another foreigner's, opinions and experiences about Japan, which is a good thing. I having multiple opinions from someone or multiple opinions, differing opinions, is always a good thing. But after that, we just never met up since then. But he's in Japan for a while, so maybe we'll meet up again. But after that, I just walked around, took more photos. That's that. And nothing happens for the next few days. I went to Shibuya for my hotel transfer. I went to a hotel over there, and nothing much. Go on as usual. I learned a lot within the first 1-2 days I was there. And so happens on the fifth day, I took a metro because I think I was at I forgot where, but I was in a very specific place, and then took the metro, and turns out the metro led up to Akihabara again, but the station wasn't called Akihabara. It was just a station that just so happens to be in the Akihabara area. So I went there. I decided, oh, I'm gonna spend the night. I'm gonna spend the afternoon here, the rest of the night here, until I have to go back to my hotel. And it was like 5 p.m. at this point. So I decided, oh, there's one thing I haven't really tried in Akihabara yet, and that would be the crane games. So in Akihabara, at least the main area of Akihabara, there's about like 5 crane game shops in very, very, very close proximity to each other, and 3 of them are actually the same brand. I think it's Gigo, which is like get into the gaming oasis or something in English. It's an acronym. So I went to one. I went to all of them, see if there was anything I was interested in. And so it happens in one of these buildings by the Junk Street, by the KFC there. You'll probably know. There was this one figure on the second floor that I really wanted. It's from Bochi the Rock, and it so happens everyone else wanted it too. And needless to say, is it not gonna focus? Whatever. I want a figure. That's what I'm gonna say. But there's a bunch of people up there, foreigners and natives alike. There's a lot of people around the world who love Bochi the Rock, myself included. And I decided to go try and win one of these figures for myself. I had to wait in line though because everyone else was also trying. But I got to meet a lot of people there, of various like I got to meet some natives or some locals, and I also got to meet some foreigners who were also visiting for the same reason I was. And we had some good talks, but there's this one specific guy that I met. He actually was the reason I wanted a Bochi figure, because it was kind of a pain in the ass to win. I still wanted a reasonable amount, but it was a struggle to say the least. He helped me win the crane game shop, but so happens this guy speaks English. He's actually a Japanese native who lives in Japan. Yeah, of course, but he speaks English. So after we won our figures, we decided to go out, and we actually hung out for the rest of the night, which is, for some reason, he liked me enough to just hang out with me, which is cool. I respect that. But we hung out, we decided to talk for a bit, and then I asked him about some good restaurants around the area, because I haven't actually had a real restaurant at the point. It was mostly convenience stores and some food in the area, like fast food. So he led me to a ramen place and a Italian restaurant, which we both ate at. It was very good. I'm not gonna lie. We also talked about things like anime since we have similar interests. We we also like tech, like IEMs, earbuds, etc. But he also told me about how people like him perceive us in Japan, foreigners. And also, he also guided me towards things I shouldn't do in Japan in terms of culture and customs, and things you should probably be doing too. And it was a very eye-opening experience. I say that about everything, but this one was especially special because first the maid cafe taught me how to. Okay, so the maid cafe maids taught me some various phrases and terms I could use to draw someone's attention, show gratefulness, etc. Just basic terms I can get by in Japan with. And my friend gave me some of his own experiences about Japan. That way I can avoid similar interactions or get into similar interactions. And this guy taught me things I should also avoid as someone who lives there and he speaks English, so he was able to convey everything in a way that made sense to me. So, like things like not wasting food, that's a big one. A lot of things really. Showing gratefulness for the food that you got, yeah, that's a big one too. He taught me many things. And that experience, alongside the rest, helped me for the rest of my trip. And it was smooth sailing from there. But after that night, we just kind of hung out. We went to more crane game shops. But after that, we actually didn't really see each other. He told me he would be in Akiba at nights sometimes, and I would be as well, because I actually spent most of my days in Akiba when I was in Tokyo. And we never exchanged like messaging apps or whatever. We just left it all up to chance. And I just haven't seen him since. But if you do end up watching this somehow, and I don't know how, but thank you. I really appreciate it. It helped me big time. So after that, I actually went to Fuji for a day trip. It went horribly. Yeah, it went very bad. So due to miscommunication with me and my parents, I actually had them do the hotels for me. No, I paid for the hotels. Don't get me wrong, but they know more about hotels than I do because they're always traveling. So I told them to. Turns out that was a mistake. I should have learned that I should be doing it for myself. And it was only for that day trip that I asked them to do the hotels. I did everything else because I knew where I wanted to stay and all. So in Mount Fuji, I got to Mount Fuji through the Shinkansen. Yeah, a very nice experience, by the way, especially if you had a rail pass. I got there, and turns out the hotel that I was gonna stay at was in the other side of Mount Fuji. So if I were, I can't draw, but apparently the hotel I wanted to stay at was in another place in Fuji. It's on the other side of Fuji that's actually inaccessible by train. So then developed a lot of issues. So I was stuck hiking in Fuji for a day. And it was actually kind of fun and scenic, but it was kind of painful at the same time because I was carrying a bunch of luggage with me. It was easily weighing over 50 kilograms. Yeah, it's a lot. Especially with all my camera gear on my back, it started straining me a bit. But I love Fuji and how it looks, but maybe I should be preparing more if I ever want to go back there. And after that hike, with all my stuff, I decided, I'm going to head back to Tokyo. I ended up staying in Shinjuku's Red District. Red Light District. I think it was Shinjuku. Yeah, that was fun because it was a last second hotel reservation. We don't talk about what happened to Red Light District because, first of all, nothing really happened, but I didn't really like what was going on there for the most part, at least for me. And after that, I went to Osaka and Kyoto for 3 days. And that went way more smoothly than the Fuji trip. I took the Shinkansen to Osaka. I was staying at Osaka during the night, but I would go to Kyoto during the day. And I went to Kyoto in the morning. And the first day I was there, first full day I was there, I went to Arashiyama. And goddamn, it's a very beautiful place. I'll probably post some pictures up here. And that'd be a place I always would want to go back to. In different seasons, so I get to experience the view in different light. But I was there. I got to experience the monkey garden forest. I also got to experience the bamboo forest. I also got to experience quite many things, really. I also got to experience a hike, a very nice little hike, and it led to this amazing view. And also, there was this one. I can't really say it's a restaurant, but it's a stand. It's a food stand. Where you can where you can eat something by the port, because it was actually in a boat dock. So they had these seats and all by the boat dock, and I got to enjoy some yakisoba with a view. It's a very unforgettable experience. The yakisoba itself isn't the best thing I've ever had. I'd say I'd had better, but the view made it amazing. It made it taste better, as funny as that sounds. But all in all, Arashiyama, I love that place, dude. And during the night, I would go to Dotonbori, or just Osaka in general. I went to Dotonbori, and it's a very vibrant place at night. but I can't say I'm the biggest fan of it. So the two things I had gripes with in Osaka, yeah, I like the place. Don't get me wrong, but the two big things, but it's all personal, and it might not reflect your experience. But in general, I'm generalizing a bit here. There's a lot of smokers in Osaka, and I'm very, very sensitive to smoke, so I don't want that thing coming near me as much as possible, and that's why I wear a mask throughout a lot of my trip. And yeah, that's just a minor gripe I have, but I can't stand it. And another thing was the karaoke advertisers. So you take the so you know how Akiba has maid cafe advertisers, right? So imagine that, but with karaoke shops. And these people are also 100% more persistent on trying to get someone to go to these shops. So I got approached by a lot of these people, and it seems like, from what I see, they're almost only catering to Japanese people. Obviously, I can be wrong. There's a lot of karaoke shops in there, but the ones that I saw, they were trying to avoid the foreigners at all possible, but they managed to approach me multiple times. They would give me the flyer, everything's in pure Japanese, so obviously they wouldn't be trying to go towards foreigners anyway, or trying to at least. And it'd be awkward when I told them I spoke English and they would ask for the flyer back, because obviously it was not meant for someone like me. But once again, that's a minor gripe, and that's more a me issue with how I look. So that's something. Other than that, Osaka is a very nice place. I wish I got to experience Osaka Castle though, but I that's my own fault for going to Kyoto during the day. So 3 days spent there, nothing much happened. But I also went to the Fushimi Inari Shrine in Kyoto. It's a very nice place, but the thing is, the Fushimi Inari Shrine, I think I'm saying it right? But it's one of the most iconic spots in Japan. Whenever you see an Instagram post or Facebook post with talk about someone's travels in Japan, you're almost guaranteed to see the Fushimi Inari Shrine in a photo. And so with that, there's a lot of people at that shrine, a lot of crowds in that shrine taking photos, and myself included. But with the crowds, I couldn't really get to enjoy it as much. It's a very cool place, don't get me wrong. I actually got a cool photo of myself with the least amount of crowd that I got to experience that day. I was wearing a shirt too, if anything, and yeah, that was the only good picture I was able to get from that. But aside from that, yeah, probably don't go during peak hours if you ever plan to go over there. And aside from that, oh, speaking of which, in Osaka, there's this one crane game shop in Dontonbori. I like talking about the crane game shop so much because I got a lot from those crane game shops, but I decided to go into one of these crane game shops because I thought maybe they'll have something different to Akiba, and they actually did for like a day. Because the day I went back to Tokyo, they actually had the same thing. But I saw this Gojo figure that I really want from Jujutsu Kaisen. In fact, it's right here. It's a very cool figure. If it would focus, yeah, and so I was very interested in that figure, and so I decided to go for it. So I was struggling for a bit because the machine was actually different from what I experienced in Akiba, and so the clerk, she comes up to me and she decides to give me tips and all, and because she knows I was struggling after the first 500 yen that I spent on it, which was about three tries for 500 yen, and she gave me tips, and sometimes after I kept struggling, yeah, I struggled for a bit. Whatchamacallit, she would move the figure box in advantageous position, so I had an easier time with it. And with that, she was also cheering me on. She told me to like stay focused and don't stress out and stuff like that. She was very encouraging me throughout the whole way, and if anything, that's the reason I kept going. So I spent about 3,000 yen on this figure, and when I won the figure, she was so hyped for me. But when I got the figure, I just said "arigatou gozaimasu" and I left. It felt wrong. Like, she was cheering me on the whole way, but all I had to say was "thank you" at the end. It didn't feel right, which is why I want to mention this, because it left a bad taste in my tongue. So I just thought I'd say thank you. I sincerely thank you for helping me throughout that whole way, because I got the Gojo figure that I really want, and you were encouraging me throughout the whole way, and that's something that I will probably never forget. It's a tiny thing. It's those tiny things that make me appreciate Japan a bit more. And yeah, I guess that's that. I couldn't give you a proper thank you, and I thought I'd do it now, even if you'll never see this video ever. So once again, thank you. So after that, I actually went back to Tokyo for the rest of my days. It was about 4 days. I stayed in Akiba at night, and I would eventually just go to different places in the morning, do my usual. I went to Ueno Park, Yoyogi Park, and a bunch of other places. I also went to Asakusa at the end. Nothing much. I took photos. I walked around for a very long time. Got some good food like yakiniku. Very good stuff, by the way. I love it. And actually, I even got this bracelet from one of the shrines there, and it means like good luck or something. And you know, I kind of need that in my life, especially mental health wise. But nothing much really happened there on those last 4 days. I was just acting like I was living life in Japan. It was amazing. But on my last day, I actually decided to go to a bar. And the reason why is because I was actually kind of sad about leaving Japan. And so I actually got to this bar and I stayed there for 5 hours. Yeah. So the reason for that was there's a bunch of businessmen that came in after work, it seems. And they actually decided to talk to me. But they realized I was a foreigner, so we actually just spoke on Google Translate. And we actually talked about my experiences in Japan as a foreigner and what I got to experience so far. Yeah, they were drunk though. So once again, they're probably doing it because they're drunk. I don't know. But even if they didn't mean what they say, like, you know, even if they didn't really care about the conversation, it's one of those social interactions that made me feel like I was kind of welcome in Japan. I felt kind of happy for one of those days on that last day. Even though I was leaving, I was actually very, how do I say this, sad about leaving Japan. So, you know, having those type of conversations on my last day really concluded, or, you know, how do I say this? It would, I forgot the term, but it would make sure my feelings about Japan would never disappear after I left. I keep forgetting the term because it's so late, early in the morning. I'm just kind of tired, but the moment I had to go back to the airport, you know, I had to go there 3 hours early and all to deal with customs and whatnot. I was tearing up. I'm not gonna lie. In one of the clips, the GoPro footage, I pointed the camera towards me. I was just looking out the window. I thought it'd be nice, but so happens I did this little chin movement as if I was trying to hold back some tears. And in fact, I was, because as soon as I got on the airplane and we took off, I was kind of tearing up. I was emotional because the biggest regret that I had about Japan, it was not extending my trip by at least a week more. I really wanted to stay there for longer and experience more. And in fact, even as soon as I got back to home, I was crying too. And my parents were surprised because they're like, Japan will always be there. But here's the thing, right? Because of my little pessimism, I feel like anything could happen in the future. It might prevent me from going back to Japan. Who knows? I will never know what the future holds for me. That's why I want to cherish the 2 weeks that I had there, and that's why I was so emotional about it. Yeah, Japan will always be there, but what if I can't go back in the future? So I should cherish the few moments that I had there that really made me feel happy. Because as someone who dealt with depression, very bad depression, since 2020 to early 2022, I'm fine now, by the way, of course. I felt like Japan was the first time I felt happy in the years since. And I know that's kind of cheesy, but I think it's partly, aside from just me worrying about my future, I worry about my future too much. I guess part of the reason I got depressed was I got so used to seeing the same thing every day of my life that I needed a new change of scenery. And Japan was that new change of scenery for me, and also told me how hard I worked up to this point to be able just to go to Japan for 2 weeks. I'm a photographer. I'm a freelance photographer. I have to work very hard just to be able to not only save enough money and make money for myself to live, I had to make enough that I could also go to Japan and enjoy a good trip for 2 weeks. And it made me feel like Japan made me feel like I could aspire for more and become bigger. And that's a feeling I could never get out of my head even until now, because I felt very encouraged after going to Japan. And I enjoyed every second of Japan, even the worst moments of Japan. And so I told you I walked 12 hours a day every day. I wasn't lying about that, by the way, but I lost a total of about 4.5 kilograms throughout the 2 weeks on that trip. I'll post a photo of before and after the trip. Maybe it's more noticeable for you guys. Some people think it's not noticeable enough because it's only 4.5 kilograms, but I'm currently 75 kilograms. I was doing a lot. I want to experience as much as I could of Japan as possible in those 2 weeks. I'm only telling you about the few biggest social experiences that I had that would affect me for the rest of my trip. And if I were to, I think I emphasized this in the beginning, but if I wanted to talk about all my day-to-day activities in Japan, this would be easily a 2 to 3 hour video. And I'm running this without a script, so that likely explains my poor public speaking skills, So, yeah, that's that. And I guess if you enjoyed watching this video, or if you learned something about this video, I appreciate it. If you managed to stay this long without getting bored of me talking, I also appreciate it somehow. You don't need to stay here. I'm just doing this for my own self-interest because I want to just reminisce on my own experiences in Japan. But I do plan on going back in the future, if the future will allow me, of course. And I hope next time, with what I learned from this whole 2-week trip, I can have a much better experience than before. And that's that. Thank you for listening.